Steve, thank you so much for joining me again. I know that in the aftermath of Logan's murder, her brutal murder, I want to say tragic death, but it's not just tragic, it's brutal. You've been doing a lot of work speaking out and making sure Logan's murder, something happens, something comes of this, and that
Yeah.
justice, your family, that you guys see justice. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And I know Logan's loss is something that you carry with you every day. Now we're
Yeah,
looking.
it's something I carry every day, and it doesn't get any easier. Um, and it's even more horrifying that there's been no national coverage of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting. It's starting to pick up some traction after the death of Irina Zarutska in Charlotte, which blew up nationally. And a lot of us who have been covering Logan's murder are like, hold up, like systemic problems. This is another one you need to look at because this, for me, this is something we've been battling and preaching about for years. But for you, Logan's murder was the first time that your family's been really, exposed to
Well,
systemic failures.
let's look at the Charlotte thing real quick, okay? Because obviously my heart goes out to her family. Unfortunately, I know exactly what they're going through. For somebody to escape a war-torn country to come here and for this to happen, and I don't recall how long she's been here. I know I've been following it, obviously. But look at it this way. Logan's murder happened last week, 4 months ago. Okay. Imagine, just imagine if Logan's case went nationally and everybody knew about it. Would not the gentleman, would the career criminal who did this to, and I'm sorry, how do we pronounce her?
Irina, I think it's
Irina?
Irina. Yeah.
Yeah. If the career criminal that did this to her, could things have been, could their decisions been different knowing what happened to Logan?
Right.
I think there's a 50-50 shot there could have been.
Right.
Could people have gotten to him and said, hey, he needs help? Okay. He's a career criminal. Back in 2022, I think he was arrested for attempted murder. What was he doing on the street just after that?
Just like Alexander
It-
Dickey, the man
yeah.
who's
Well,
allegedly murdered your daughter.
I'll say this, and I said this on an interview, live interview this morning. What the criminal that did to Lorena is a rookie compared to what Alexander Dickey is. Okay,
Yeah.
if you look at the time span and you look at the age, Alexander Dickey, I think in 2013 was 15 years old or something like that. Okay, so it stems from 10 years. Okay, to 2023. He was arrested 39 times. You know that. 25 were felonies. This guy was only arrested 14 times. I don't mean only in a disrespectful way.
Right.
I
Right.
just mean that everything that I see, even Fox yesterday posted a picture of the highest profile cases going. Not one of them had more career crimes than Alexander Dickey.
Right. And
You know,
and just walking around, and because
well,
of failures in simple failures in our system and the way that crimes are processed.
and it's funny. In my interview, it got a little political this morning, and I think the last time I met with you, I told you I really didn't want to go down that road, right? Because
Right.
this is a red, blue, and indifferent type of thing where we need to come figure out how to come together on this so this stops happening, not just to our children, but to just all the innocent bystanders, right? But somebody brought up, well, South Carolina is a Republican red. It is, but it has so many big counties that are
Right.
blue, and
Right.
and the judges and the solicitors and all the people that matter are the blue,
Right.
right? And they're making these decisions based upon what I've said from the start. We have an epidemic problem of those judges that aren't even qualified judges, to be honest with you, what I'm just learning ours. They don't. Some of them aren't even attorneys. They're just appointed people that some of them are relying on DEI, like the person in Charlotte did, to make decisions for them. Right.
Right.
So we're in an epidemic in the United States that we are more concerned how career criminals in itself. Now, all crimes have to be created different. Jaywalking, obviously, you're not going to do 25 years for jaywalking. But Alexander Dickey and the guy from Charlotte, they had a resume that dictated they should have been in prison for a long time.
Right. Those were
And
not 2-year,
no,
nonviolent offenses. These were
the problem
violent
isn't
offenses.
boots on the ground, Jennifer. It's not boots on the ground. I think boots on the ground that I talk to, and obviously I have a relationship with detectives now, and a lot of them, okay? Their frustration is the same as the American people, okay? And the frustration is when they're doing their job, they're seeing the same people they arrest day in and day out the same day, out the next day. And I don't know if you know this, but did you know how basically they found out who uh, it was Alexander Dickey? Uh,
No.
well, from what I've been told, and you can fact check this if you need to or find out, what I've been told is after we sent Detective McCoy the emails we were getting about Logan's accounts, they went to the stores and obviously look at the video. They didn't need facial recognition.
They
They didn't need
recognized
anything
him.
other than said, God, we know exactly who this is. We know exactly where to start looking for him. We know his girlfriend, the girl he stays with. We know all this stuff, all of
Right.
it.
It
And
just,
that's how they got him. You know,
and what
their
does that
own
tell
facial
you
recognition.
right there? I mean, they knew who he was. They knew where to find him because they had done it so many times before.
Right. I'm almost positive that the officers that recognized him actually arrested him before.
Uh, well, I mean, with 39 priors,
Right.
I'd have to assume the odds are pretty good that
Well, did you know 23 of those were in Lexington County?
yeah, that I mean, it's not like he was hopping around the country. We're
No.
talking in the same 2-county radius.
Yeah. And I don't mean to be laughing because it's funny, but it's funny.
Right.
It's funny how somebody like this could be on the street. I mean, look, I've spoken a lot about access. Okay, that is my key word for whole Logan's case. It's always been access. You know that. It's in my heart. It's what I preach. It's how Alexander Dickey got access to Logan, how he got access to a gun, how he got access into the houses. You know, um, and it's the same with Charlotte. How did this guy get access to the light rail? Why isn't there a better security system up here to figure out um, something? Why isn't there a facial recognition system that you bought a ticket? Why isn't there something that says, "Oh, this guy cannot ride"?
Right.
And I don't know what that is, but there's the technology nowadays. It's like technology for locking, automatic locking doors. They
Right.
can have them. They can have them. You know.
It's yeah, and that's the thing that I keep, seeing in these stories over and over again. It's the same failures. It's the same individuals involved, and it's frustrating and it's so heartbreaking. I mean, it is just absolutely
Yeah.
heartbreaking. You've been one of the most vocal family members that I've ever interviewed. You started talking quickly and loudly. And I think because we're both parents of young women, I completely, I got that. It was like, I knew immediately you were trying to make her death mean something, make
Yeah.
changes, make sure this doesn't happen again.
And it
Uh,
did.
and I mean, it's been, this happened May 3rd, right? Did I get that right?
Yeah. May 3rd.
So she was murdered on May 3rd. I heard you on Trey Gowdy's show the other night.
What a great man that he is. What a
Yeah,
great show.
it was great to hear his perspective, as an attorney and former prosecutor. But when you were on there, you were saying that you haven't heard from the Fifth Circuit Solicitor's Office, Byron Gibson, since May. Did
Right.
I hear that
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And listen, Dickey's bond hearing for Logan was on May 3rd or May 13th. I'm sorry.
Right.
After that, we came out of court and we went to another courtroom. where we were talking about, okay, the case and what's the next steps. Well, Dick, who you know very well, um, approached the assistant that is handling Logan's case, okay, and basically said, hey, the Federicos are down from Charlotte. They're an hour and a half away. We'd like a sit down with Byron. Well, the response was, well, it's lunchtime. I'm not sure what he's got going on for the day. And Dick literally just kind of looked at him and said, I have his number in my phone. Should I call him? And the guy was like, yeah, go ahead and call him. Well, not less than a minute later, Dick comes back and says, we're going to meet with him in 15, 20 minutes. And we went to that meeting with an open dialogue. I want to believe in the fifth district. I want to believe in Brian. I want to believe in his whole team. They took us in and spoke with us. He let the patriarch of the family, which is me and my wife and my child, were there. My best friend Dave, one of my best friends, Dave Thal, who's an ex-CMPD cop. They let us voice our opinion, and our opinion is that this is a death penalty case. No doubt in my mind. And his statement was, we think it's on the table. It should be it's on the table. That meeting lasted maybe 15, 20 minutes. On the way out, we walked to the cars. We stopped in front of this restaurant, and we all just looked at each other. And Dick said he just was blowing smoke up your ass.
I actually can hear him saying that.
And then right then and there, we knew what we needed to do. So what we did, and here's where it is. Here's where we are. It's called the Hobbs Act. Okay. It's for cases just like this. We want this case to go federal. We've talked to Brian Sterling, the U.S. Attorney for South Carolina. He's talking to his boss, Todd Blanchard, and obviously we hope Alan Wilson gets involved. They are the key people. We met with Brian Sterling not long after that phone call was made. He was anxious. He's on it. He's talked more to Dick than Byron and his staff have talked to Dick. We've been ghosted since May 13th. Haven't heard one update, one iota of information, one peep, one nothing like, get lost, Mr. Federico. This is our case. We're going to handle it the way we want to handle it.
Right. Not even that.
We know for a fact that when Donald Trump and Pam Bondi hear about Logan's case, which I can't believe they have, when they hear about it, okay, something's going to change. Logan's murderer deserves the death penalty and checks every one of the boxes, and this should be a federally charged case. We should not leave it in the hands of people that don't have the experience to handle a case like this and never have. The assistant that is assigned to the case, from what he told us, was he's had 2 death penalty cases. They never saw the inside of the courtroom, from what I heard found out. Okay. Of course, they were all pled down to something else.
Right.
25, 35 years in prison, whatever it is. Okay.
Right.
But their death penalty, guys. Dickie is already going to prison for life, most likely, for the burglaries in Lexington and everywhere else. Why do the Federicos want anything other than death? He's already going to life. So I don't even want people come to me and say, hey, he wants to make a deal. He'll admit to this. He'll admit to that. He doesn't have to admit to it. We know what was done to Logan.
Right.
The girl from Charlotte has gotten so much cover for a few reasons. One is we think obviously there's a hidden narrative with some major networks, right? And I don't think that's anything that I need to be worried about saying. It is what it is. Okay. I don't believe in it. I believe that a 22 and a 23-year-old beautiful girl in the prime of her life could get shot down. Everybody should be yelling from the rooftops that this is wrong. Okay.
Right.
But we've got one knucklehead on CNN last night accusing President Trump of making things political. And I'm kind of glad that's why he hasn't spoken out just yet, but I hope he does for Logan. I expect him to.
Right.
I expect Pam to talk to her people about it. But the one other big thing is this, and this is going to be really blunt. There's a horrible video of what happened to that girl.
Right.
And I need to apologize to all the major networks. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I don't have a video of Logan being forced on her knees naked, being told to put her hands up, and having a 12-gauge shotgun shoved in the left rib cage underneath her left breast while she pleaded and begged for her life while she was calling for her hero, her dad, her mom, her brother, while she was pleading for someone in that house to help her. And no one responded to her, Jennifer. Not one of those boys, not the boy she was dating that was 3 feet from her during the shooting. Do you believe that Logan's crime had to be on a video for it to get major coverage?
It shouldn't have
That's what I
been.
believe now. It's sensationalism.
Yeah.
And what's more sensational than a 22-year-old blonde hair, blue eye, knockout, model potential young girl that has her whole life ahead of her and has finally figured it out? And the local reporters in Charlotte were the only ones that covered Logan's story. And Fox jumped on board, obviously, once they found out about Cynthia Beasley. Okay. And Fox has been absolutely, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Fox has been absolutely fabulous. They had Logan on practically every one of their episodes yesterday. Jesse, in fact, Trey Gowdy was on one of the sessions yesterday that was asking, how haven't we heard about Logan Federico yet?
Right. I mean,
Right.
and it is, as a mother, I saw so much of my own children in Logan. She was, she was she was going to college. She had plans. She wanted to work with kids. She was visiting her boyfriend at University of South Carolina. I mean, she was doing the things our kids do every day and should be able to do
Right.
and get home safely.
But listen, and this is what I have to tell everybody. This is my message to everyone. It's not safe out there. There are very bad people out there, and there's reasons why there's very bad people out there, because there's very bad people in charge of not putting them out there.
Right.
They don't understand it. And if this happened to Byron's child, if this happened to the mayor's child up in Charlotte, if this happened to any politician's child, things would have changed like that. Like that. Just imagine 4 months ago, if all this goes public and says, you know what, we need to look at something here. And this guy is getting arrested left and right up in Charlotte. Maybe he is in jail that night, or maybe he is in a psychiatric ward that night. Okay. And that's what I'm trying to do, Jennifer. And I didn't do it in time. My heart's broken for her because I didn't do this in time. I couldn't get it done. And like you said, I'm the biggest voice for Logan. And I have support, obviously, from you and other networks, and now Fox and now Newsweek, which I was on this morning at Wake Up America. That was a fabulous, fabulous interview. Probably one of the better ones. And unfortunately, they only let you talk for so long.
Right. You're like, I've got more if you want.
I've got a load to go on. So whether, and these interviews are draining for me mentally, physically, emotionally. But someone has to do it.
Right.
I need Byron to do the right thing. I need him to just kind of drop out. And I need him to say, listen, this is a federal case. This isn't something that this office wants or can handle. Brian can handle this better. Todd can handle it. Al, Wilson can handle it better. It's just a better situation if they say, hey, President Trump, we need some help here.
Right.
And we really need the death penalty. 2 weeks ago, President Trump made a statement that said murderers deserve the death penalty. And Sunday, Trey Gowdy made the statement that said Alexander Dickey is the poster boy for the death penalty. He has not seen a case in his whole career, he told me, and said it on live TV, that he's never seen a case that doesn't dictate the death penalty right away. Let me ask something. Why don't you think Byron has made this decision yet?
I would, I don't know. I do know that there have been other cases that check the boxes for a death penalty qualification that he has not pursued. And, is it his political beliefs? Is it,
personal?
Personal beliefs? I don't know the answer to that. And, I'm not, personally, I've never, death penalty, it's a big step. But
Sure.
there are absolutely cases where I feel it's warranted. Um, and I mean, especially when a family, that they can't dictate everything in a criminal case, but when a family is saying this is our desire. When you prosecute this, we believe it should be a death penalty case. And at this point, he's not redeemable. Putting him in the prison
Right.
system for the rest of his life isn't going to do
Well,
anything.
and some people make the statement, well, prison's worse than death. Listen, he'll be in prison for 10 years if it goes federally, and he'll be put to death at some point, and he'll
Right.
suffer for those 10 years. And listen, the Federicos aren't death penalty, rah, rah,
Right.
rah.
Right.
The circumstances have to fit that
Right.
sentence,
And you
okay?
said something in our last interview about, this is what Logan would have wanted.
Yeah.
It's not just my desire as a dad. I know my daughter would have wanted this.
Well, we've had conversations in our family about this type of stuff, and Logan was a believer in the death penalty, and the same belief that we have as a family. It's every case is different,
Hmm.
okay, including the Charlotte case. They're already pursuing the death penalty on that. That's on the table there. They made that
Right.
announcement. They already have an attorney general. They have it federally. That's where Mr. Trump, and that's where Pam Bondi need to take this case and let it go. Okay.
Right.
So, and listen, if this thing goes and it goes to a jury of his peers and they say two life sentences, we have to live with that. But if Byron takes the personal and beliefs, especially the personal, because they don't believe in the professional part, if he takes those out and just follows the law, right? This is a pure breaded best case for death that he can go for. If he doesn't get it, he doesn't get it. But he shouldn't be the one trying it either. Doesn't have the experience in the office. He doesn't have the experience professionally or personally. Now, the last thing I heard was from Lexington. That was the last um, bond hearing we went to, is where Dickey never showed up. Okay,
Right.
he
So
had that.
his charges, just for people that are new to this case, he murdered the murder charge is in Richland County,
Right,
but he took her debit card and fled to Lexington County.
right,
So a lot of his crimes are in Lexington County. He was arrested in Lexington County, and he's in
right.
the Lexington County Detention Center right now. He was denied bond. So when you talk in bond hearings, that's why it was in Lexington County for anybody.
Well,
Yeah.
and we're fine with that, but they're supposed to be notifying us because we
Right.
made it perfectly public that we want to be at every one of them. Okay.
Right.
And we weren't invited to the last one, but he's also there for the arson as well, of the fire. But, when I was there, I talked to this very nice, I guess, assistant or DA there that was absolutely wonderful. And we went in the hallway, we introduced ourselves. She was in absolute tears over Logan's case. I felt a connection with her like I do with you. I thought this is really going to go somewhere. They had said, hey, we're going to expedite this case with Dickey so you guys can get to him quicker. I brought concerns up and I said, I think you need to kind of get our attorney Dick involved in that, because what we don't want is that him getting life for the burglary and the arson and somebody saying, well, he's already got life. Why should we give him death?
Right. Right.
But don't know if those conversations ever happened. I've had no communications with them since then. I do know that um, Officer McCoy testified in a grand jury, which I know the grand jury is a little different down there in South Carolina or in Columbia, wherever it is, and he was indicted, uh, and and Dickey was indicted on the charges on Logan, when I think it was murder and et cetera. But we still don't know when his next trial date is. We don't know what the next move is. And like I said, we have officially, I'm going to catch up on times. We've been ghosted.
Right. I mean,
Ghosted.
even if they don't have the next date scheduled in the court roster, a time frame would be helpful.
Well, and look, Trey Gowdy told me exactly on that interview what should happen. They should be sitting us in a room, telling us where they are with the evidence, telling us how strong, or here's where we're weak, here's where we're strong. None of those conversations have happened, and that's why I just think I don't think Byron's heart is in this case.
Right.
Okay. I think, and here is the God's honest truth from my heart. I think he feels so strongly about not giving the death penalty, but he knows this case values the death penalty. He just can't pull the trigger. So what I want to do is I want to rest his conscience. I want to be assured I can take this off his conscience. I'm begging him right now. I'm asking you, Byron, let the feds take this case. We don't need you for it. I don't need you to have a conscience the rest of your life of guilt because it's something you don't believe in. Let somebody that can follow the law, okay, and wants this case. Brian, he's been in more contact with Dick already than the other office. He's told everybody he's eager for this case. He's motivated for it. It needs the death penalty. It needs to be brought to people's attention why this happened. And listen, this isn't going to stop when we get the death penalty. It's just the first phase.
Right. There's a lot of change that needs to happen in addition to that to make sure that we're all safe. I mean,
And they have both sides going back and forth whose fault it is. And that's what's crazy. It's because the sheriff has already taken ownership. And I don't think the sheriff was actually the sheriff back when all these mistakes were made. And he has owned part of the problem. They haven't figured out what the problem is, but I want to be involved in that process. I want to help them fix that process if I can. But when you have the solicitor Hubbard, which I hear he's a good dude. I hear he's strong. I hear he's firm with crime. But somehow his felony cases there got pleaded down somehow and shouldn't have. Another reason after 2015 or 2016, I think he should have been in prison. But they have to take some ownership. The judges, or the so-called judges, the citizens that have become judges, that don't know exactly what the law is or how to follow it, and they hire these DEI people that kind of make their decisions for them and stay within the DEI stuff. That's not fair justice for people like Logan or people like the girl in Charlotte. I mean, if this thing goes federally, a couple things happen. It's tried by federal prosecutors. Okay, they have a team that go in on it. Dickie also gets better representation.
right.
Right. So he's going to be afforded better representation through the federal. What is it? Where they get their attorneys from
public
defender. Yeah, he gets a federal public defender. And those guys will be talking. They'll be dotting their I's, crossing their T's, making sure nothing is missed, making sure his rights are fully engaged. I don't want anybody getting the death sentence or going to prison that doesn't fit the bill. If somebody can tell me Dickie didn't do it and they find somebody else to do it that did it, that's great. But I can guarantee you this: I know a lot of the evidence, and I think you do too.
I do.
All right. Nancy Grace does. A lot of people do, and he's not getting out of this. And I just think Byron's office just needs to kind of do the right thing.
So this has been, for you, this is not, I mean, you came out, like I said, quickly, you came out strong. But this is something that you never thought in your wildest dreams a year ago, you did not see this coming. Are you surprised about what you're learning about our system of justice?
Well, I will tell you this. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed again, and the statement for me about being disappointed is pretty simple. I'm disappointed that criminals have more rights than innocent people, and the rights that they have are being protected by the wrong people. We're electing some of these people into office, and they're putting them back on the streets for no reason. If we need to build more prisons, we need to build more prisons. It's as simple as that. If we need to hire more security, we need a federal budget for more police officers on the streets. Okay, maybe some of this stuff, I'd like a federal investigation of this whole situation in Logan's case. I think somebody different has to put a different set of eyes on it and say, hey, let's find out what really happened here. Mr. Hubbard can investigate his own department. The sheriff can investigate his own department all he wants. The judges, the judicial people can investigate their judges all they want, but they're investigating their own people.
Right.
We all know how that normally turns out.
Right.
Okay. So let's do something different. Let's change the game. Okay. If they're going to change,
some independent audits of the system, maybe.
exactly. Right. If they're, it's called Logan's Act. It's all in something we posted. I've got it from a girl on Facebook. I mentioned her name. We're going to tweak it a little bit, and we've got some good backing on that. I know that I have some people in Tim Scott's office that are interested in talking about it. Obviously, I think there's another congressman posted something on Twitter. That's another thing. Elon got wind of this thing, posted. It's got over 17 million views. You know how outrageous all this is. But I think if they're going to change the rules of the game in the middle of the game, we have to change the game we're playing. And the game we're playing is all about who's the watchdog of these smaller counties like Richland, like like Lexington. Who are the watchdog? Who's auditing these people once a quarter, once a year? Here's the scary part. You live down there now, right?
Yep.
So how many Alexander Dickies do you think are on the street?
Oh,
I mean, seriously,
thousands. I would say thousands, easily.
I heard that on a radio this morning. Like, how many Alexander Dickies can possibly be on the streets in the United States that people have no idea? There could be thousands just in Richland County. There could be thousands in Lexington County. Just look at the amount of arrests we have. And the funny thing is, AI can pull up that data really quick.
Right.
And from the research I've done, I've got a buddy that's an AI expert. The number right now in that county is like 52,000.
That's scary.
And that is not verified, but it's through AI and it's through an app, and he's an expert in the AI. But I bet you it's pretty darn close that it might be in South Carolina. 52,000 people. Would you honestly believe that the people that elect these officials into these positions would be happy with that?
No.
Right.
No. None of
it's
us
not the way it's supposed to be.
Right. None of us should be okay with that. It's just it's not okay for people who are just trying to live their life from day to day and get home in one piece.
Yeah.
And it's just a battle that I feel like we shouldn't have to be fighting still, but we're going to fight it. And
I'm in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
I'm a father on a mission.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have 2 full-time jobs now. I work a 60-hour construction job as a project manager and salesperson, and I've got a dad job that I do for Logan that's probably 50, 60 hours a week as well.
I think Logan would be extremely proud of you.
I think she's getting there.
Yeah.
I think she's getting there. I think she's pissed. Said it before. Logan didn't die of an illness of cancer that she struggled with for years, and we weren't expecting this. She didn't die in a car accident that just is out of the blue. She died out of the blue, but viciously.
Yeah.
And the word preventable has to be used in that.
100% preventable and horrific.
So what do you have now? Because have you heard anything different down there? Or?
I have not heard anything different on my end. Just keeping an eye on the court docket. I know it's slow in South Carolina, but it feels painfully slow, and I don't know if it's just because we met so soon. But violent crime is everywhere. Well, I mean, it's just.
It's funny you mentioned the whole backlog, because Charlotte has a backlog of about 3 or 4 years of criminal cases being heard. So, and you're going to, again, this is coming from a father of a murdered child. I don't know how fair it is that prisoners are locked up if they had potential of being innocent for 3 years waiting for a trial. Okay. I think somewhere in the Constitution or amendments, you're afforded a speedy trial. 3 to 4 years is not a speedy trial.
Does not feel.
So maybe we need to figure something out about that.
Yeah, and I do know we've got a new Chief Justice of our state Supreme Court, and he is making active moves to push these solicitors to clear up that backlog. And I have seen improvement, but it's still painfully long for, especially like you, a parent who's just waiting for justice, waiting to see what the outcome is. And it's waiting for a trial or a
And
plea.
I shouldn't have to wait this long with the evidence that we have. This should be one of those trials that he gets a speedy trial, and if it goes federally, it does. It speeds up a lot of the
Right.
processes, right? But there are certain cases, and that's my belief, that should be pushed in front of others.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the girl in Charlotte, she'll see some action pretty quickly
Yeah.
on that case, and it's pretty aggressive because people want to know what happened. And I have a funny feeling when the right people pick this up. And look, we've got the right people plugged in here. We've got Brian Sterling, South Carolina U.S. Attorney. We've got the Deputy AG Todd Blanche, and I'm hoping to get Alan Wilson involved. Now, I have a funny feeling they're going to reach up to the hires, and that's Pam Bondi, right? I mean, that's who they basically work for. So after the statement she made yesterday that they're going after the most severe penalty for this other guy, which is the death penalty, I don't see that not happening, and I don't see President Trump and her leaving it alone. I just don't. It's clearly not a political case at this point, and nobody can accuse them of this being a political case.
Right.
What this is a case that they need to take over because it's in slow motion mode,
Yeah.
and it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was listed on Fox yesterday as a high profile case, one of four.
As it should be.
And high profile cases should take precedent over some of the bullshit stuff.
No, and as horrifying as the case in Charlotte is, in a lot of ways it must, the momentum that it's given, your Logan's story, while frustrating that you had to wait for so long.
Honestly, respectfully, I disagree.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you what put fuel in the fire for Logan's case. It was Ted Gowdy.
Yeah.
I mean, my phone blew up after that. Now, I've got some phone calls from other people, up a couple papers up in New York and some other people, and they wanted me to speak about the case in Charlotte. Like, I'm not speaking about that until I give you updates about Logan.
Right. Let's talk about Logan first,
okay?
And we can.
But I will tell you this. That case in Charlotte had nothing to do with Logan's case blowing up.
Right.
Okay. The only reason Logan's case blew up was because of Cynthia Beasley, and some other people. Now, lately it's blown up. And I'm telling you, it had absolutely nothing to do with that. I have an attorney that works his ass off for us.
Yeah.
And he is booked doing a lot of different stuff. And I know that, but he has made Logan a priority of his. He knows he's not a firm believer in the death penalty, but now he believes that the death penalty, like you and I do.
Right.
Certain cases, it belongs. It just does. So, him having contacts that he has, and Trey Gowdy heard about the story, and it wasn't through the Charlotte girl. It was through my social media. It was my blast. It was me staying on top of people. It was. I think I did an interview somewhere where I told him, I said, I haven't heard one word from him. And next thing you know, I get a call from Dick and said, hey, Trey Gowdy wants to talk to you. And I'm like,
yeah,
what?
That surprised me when I heard that. And it made me very, very sad and very frustrated.
Well, and the funny is, Trey's genuinely pissed. Like, he told me if he could take this case, he would. He said there is no better case for the death penalty. There's no better case for the federal people to take this. There's no better case for the Hobbs Act. He didn't say that, but that's what we're shooting for. And if you read the Hobbs Act, Logan checks a lot of the boxes, for that. But, I watch Trey a lot, and I've never seen him probably as emotional as I've seen him Sunday. And then yesterday on one of their shows getting interviewed about the train thing, the light rail thing. And he brought Logan up and brought her up twice and brought her up significantly, wanted to know, why aren't we hearing about Logan? Why haven't we heard?
Right.
And look, we text back and forth now. I actually have Trey Gowdy in my phone, which is pretty cool, right? And I've asked him some questions. I'm going to probably be a pain in the ass every once in a while, but I asked him about, why is this girl getting so much coverage and Logan didn't? And he told me, he said, Steve, video speaks volumes. And, after he told me that, I thought about it. I said, yeah, you're probably right. So like I said, I apologize that I don't have that video, but I'm kind of glad I don't.
Yeah, I am. I'm too.
Because
Well,
I relive that night, and I relive the moments of her death after we found out what he did to her. I really relive that, and my wife relives it every day.
I was looking at your Facebook page, and your wife posted it just made me think of how close you were with Logan. Posted that she had gone to Charleston and forgotten her shoes that she was going to wear, and you drove them down for her.
Her magic boots. There's these special boots she bought for Charleston, and luckily I do a lot of work in Charleston. I do a lot of multifamily work in Charleston. I have some great clients down there. So I had a halfway spot that I know I could meet her, and she said, Logan forgot her boots. I said, well, tell her Daddy's on his way. I said, meet me at exit 145, and I did, honestly, it was probably the smile on her face. That's why I would do it again and again and again. Not only for my daughter, but I would do it for my son as well. But Logan and I had a special relationship, and when she wanted something, that she needed something, she knew Daddy was there, no matter what. I drove 3 hours to get her boots so she could wear out that night.
I saw that, and I immediately was like, yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, come on, the girl's got to look good, right? And she's
got to have her boots.
She's a fashion queen.
Well, I really, I appreciate you taking the time to always sit down with us and keep us updated. And I know how hard this is for you.
There's special people in my life right now, and you're one of them. I can honestly tell you that. I feel the genuine care. There's a person named Ruth that works for the Daily Mail up in New York. She has, and we've only done phone conversations, but I feel when somebody cries on the phone with you, you feel it. Cynthia Beasley, the other people from WIS, and the other girl, I cannot remember her name. She just got engaged. I forget who it was. Oh, I'm going to be embarrassed. Don't let her see this.
That's all right. That's all right.
But there's people like Dick. They just genuinely care about what happened to Logan,
right?
And they generally care that this doesn't want to happen again. Now, I made some contacts at Newsweek. This girl, Marley, who touched my heart. I've got another person that reached out to me, and I've got a lot of family and friends that have people working for congressmen and that are going to help, and they're interested to help. But it's got to be the right time. I can't focus on all that at once. It was draining too much of my time. So I had to kind of project manage everything and just say, listen, our main concentration now is Dickie.
Right.
And getting at least somebody to take the case over and say, yes, this is a death penalty case. And this is where we're going. Once we do that, I can start concentrating on some other things. Like, we still have Logan's GoFundMe page going. And there's a great reason why. We're working closely with South Piedmont Community College, and people have reached out to me about scholarships and grants for Logan. And I haven't gotten back to them yet because what I really want to do is the Federico family wants to fund that.
Right.
Okay. And we're going to fund it through GoFundMe's. We're going to fund it through golf outings. We're going to fund it through just benefit raisers. That's who we want to be. We don't want the burden to be on South Piedmont Community College to worry about having to fund that. We want to do that, because that's what Logan would want us to do. So, we've got this Logan's Act thing going. We'll touch base with that a little bit more when we have to. We found out the direction we have to go, what we have to do to get that done, or hopefully get it done. It makes a whole lot of sense. It makes a whole lot of people accountable. It audits, like we've talked about earlier. And college kids need to know this right from the get-go, and we can wrap this up after this. They have to know, their parents have to know, they have every right wherever they live when they go to college to know who owns a gun in the house, the apartment, the dorm, wherever they stay at. Now, University of South Carolina has backed off of this and hasn't mentioned anything. They've gone silent on everything that happens at the University of South Carolina. They're a little bit of a weasel, if you ask me. They could have made
Right.
a statement on this. This house was less than 1 mile or 1.5 miles away. They ban guns on their property. Well, if you have a gun policy and you have a code of conduct policy that has no guns, that should not only reflect not on property, but if you go to that school. Okay.
Right.
That's my feeling. Whether it's constitutionally or amendmentally right, I don't know. But there's things you can do because you're a school. Okay. But as long as they're getting that money, they're okay with that. But parents and kids and children going to school, this isn't a vacation. It's your first chance at freedom, but you have to protect your freedom and make sure you come home to your parents and
Right. And,
visit you.
I remember when my children were smaller, there was a big push for people to, not to ostracize me for owning a gun, but to know if, somebody, if they had a play date and they're going over to somebody's house, if they had a
Yep.
gun, ask, is it locked up?
Yeah.
Just, take those safety measures. And I think that, it's smart right now. It's all it is advice to parents and to college students to ask those questions.
Well, and look, I've got a lot of friends who got some officers, buddies that were cops, and we go back and forth on this. But look, here's really, I think, the easy answer to this. You can own 15 guns all you want, but when you're not home, you need to make them locked up in somewhere where
Right.
nobody can find them.
Right.
Okay, when you're home, you can have 15 guns laying all over the house, and I really don't care what happens. Unfortunately, some kids die of that, and they're their own kids. But unfortunately, that's on the parent.
Right.
Okay. When you get home from that and you're laying in bed and you take that gun out and you put it in a holster next to your bed or whatever because you might need it that night, I have no problem with that. You can get a carry license if you're worried about coming into your house and somebody being in your house. There are other ways to protect yourself than leaving 5 guns laying around, one shotgun out in the open loaded.
Right.
Logan would still be here. Well, at least we know she wouldn't have been shot to death.
Right.
Okay. So if you think about that, that's where I want to go. Let's make gun owners smarter, but the way you do that is you have to hold them more liable
Right.
that when they don't. And
Right.
there's not anybody out there, gun owner or not, should be thinking anything different. Okay. Because there's already a Second Amendment that protects your right to own a gun, not only to own the gun, but to do whatever you want with it when you want to do with it. Okay. But that doesn't give anyone the right to have a gun living next door to my daughter and not have her good intentions at heart as well.
Right.
I asked a friend of mine who owns guns when we lived next to each other. And I looked at him and I said, well, okay, what if when we lived next to each other, one of your guns got stolen in a break-in and they broke into our house and they killed both Logan and Jake? I said, what would you have done? And he said, so that's a gun owner. He couldn't
Yeah.
live with himself.
Yeah.
So, and that's a great note to finish on.
Right.
Good gun owner laws, strict gun owner laws, holding and liability. Listen, the other thing is, homeowners insurance can help. There can be riders in the homeowner insurance that if you own a gun in a house, it's a $5 million policy that you have to hold.
Right.
There's a ton of stuff we can do, Jennifer, and we can do it together. Trust me. I know I'm going to do it.
I'm always on board.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great talking to you. Tell everybody there I said hi.
I will.
And tell your daughter I said go Clemson. I'm
I
Clemson.
will.
All
All right.
right. Talk to you
Bye.
soon. Great. Bye.